This posh neighborhood, what brings you here? Our residence is in that towering condo over yonder. This enclave isn't exactly your scene, you know. Imagine bumping into him again. The wealthy fellow who betrayed me for a younger woman, leaving me in the lurch. And now, they're both casting their judgmental gaze down upon me, still clad in modesty and simplicity, huh? Oh, by the way, I happen to be pulling in $100,000 a year now. $100,000 a year must be quite the struggle, isn't it? Unexpectedly, my husband chimed in. My name's Evelyn, 28, and I'm employed by a ceramics company. It all traces back to a family trip during middle school, when we visited a pottery market my mom adored. Now, it's my livelihood. While I relish pursuing my passion professionally, I've contemplated that remaining unattached might not be so bad after all. Life is full of surprises, never quite knowing what encounters lie ahead. Engaged in a town revitalization endeavor for a pottery market, I crossed paths with Jack, affiliated with an events firm, and our courtship began. Evelyn revels in her craft, and her dedication garners my respect. With her, I feel assured of building a home together, he'd often affirm. I harbored no intentions of relinquishing my career post-nuptials. Thus, I believed we could navigate through it. However, Jack's frequent business travels and weekend commitments often left us at odds, mirroring my own sporadic studio obligations. Regrettably, I realized too late that Jack increasingly reneged on our plans and evaded our wedding arrangements. His once prompt responses dwindled, leaving me in the dark. One afternoon, as I made my way to the station following a meeting, I caught sight of Jack across the street. A spur-of-the-moment decision led me to pursue him. Jack, are you finished with work? Shall we dine together? I called out as the light changed. To my dismay, he stood there, accompanied by a striking woman with lengthy limbs, her arm intertwined with his. Evelyn, what brings you here? What an unexpected coincidence, he remarked, his tone betraying a hint of discomfort. I had just wrapped up a work meeting nearby when I stumbled upon Jack. Are you still at it, Jack? I inquired, though it didn't seem like he was engaged in business. Despite the circumstances, I maintained my composure, aware of his profession's nature, where he often mingled with models and companions. I greeted them both calmly. This is Grace, a model, Jack introduced her with a warm smile. Grace exuded style and elegance, a natural fit for her profession. Ah, so it's work-related, I thought, feeling a hint of relief. Though I couldn't shake the discomfort of their intertwined arms, I reasoned it might be commonplace in her line of work. Hello, I'm Evelyn, engaged to him, I offered as a greeting. Jack's demeanor suddenly shifted, and Grace, after a quick appraisal, burst into laughter. What, she's the fiancé? Oh dear, we've been discovered, Jack, she chuckled, turning to him. I told you to make haste. Now that we're here, let's set things straight, she declared, meeting my gaze directly. Jack turned to me with a grave expression. Evelyn, I'm dating Grace, he declared flatly. Shock washed over me as I struggled to comprehend his words. What? Jack, what are you saying? I stammered, bewildered by the sudden revelation. Grace interjected, her tone casual. Jack pursued me at an outdoor festival event, claiming he would end things with you. She disclosed matter-of-factly. So, thanks for everything up until now, she added, her words cutting deep. Wait, Jack, can't we discuss this? I implored, desperate for clarity. However, Jack remained resolute. There's nothing more to discuss. My decision is made. Grace is everything I want, cute, stylish, and perfect. She's only 24 and comes from a wealthy family, he declared, his tone final. Jack, stop this nonsense. Just because my dad's a CEO doesn't mean I'll accept this, Grace interjected, her frustration evident. I'm going to marry Grace and become part of her family, Jack asserted, his resolve unwavering. You're quitting your job? I questioned, incredulous at the turn of events. The reality of the situation began to sink in, my engagement shattered, my future uncertain. Do you not love your work anymore? Grace inquired. It's more lucrative than my current job, Jack explained. Oh, and make sure to cancel the wedding venue. Don't worry, I'll cover the cancellation fee since it's my fault. Wow, Jack, that's so responsible, Grace commended. I just want to be with Grace as soon as possible. So cool. I managed to keep my composure, preventing myself from fainting. There seemed to be no point in saying anything more. It was evident that Jack was completely taken with Grace. I understand, I finally uttered. I can't cry yet, not in front of these people. Keep working hard, covered in dirt, I added as they walked away, arms still intertwined, laughter trailing behind them. 2 years post my breakup with Jack, as I turned 30, I remained dedicated to my work. Now, I held no regrets about that man. In fact, I considered myself fortunate not to have married only to be deceived later on. That's how I perceived it. The process of crafting pottery energized me, and someone had been silently observing my efforts. Andrew, a craftsman at the pottery studio I had collaborated with for years. Despite initially thinking he was solely interested in ceramics, Andrew invited me to dinner. On the third occasion, he confessed his feelings. Surprised but also elated, I respected him as a craftsman. However, burdened by a significant trauma from my past, I hesitated to enter a new relationship. With honesty, I disclosed everything to him. I had announced my engagement at work and among the pottery studio associates, so he was already aware of its cancellation. He listened quietly, offering his usual kind smile. That must have been tough, he acknowledged empathetically. Yes, I was actually shocked when I heard you were getting married. I believed it was only natural for someone as exceptional as you to have a partner, and I often blamed myself for not making a move sooner. His words caught me off guard. When you attempted to smile and announce the cancellation of your marriage, I wanted to offer my support immediately, but I understood you needed time. So I threw myself into my work, hoping to create pottery that would bring you comfort. Since then, you've been on my mind, and believe it or not, I've garnered some attention. Perhaps it's because of my grandfather's wealth, but I've been approached by several women, even dated a few. However, none of it brought me the excitement I find in working with clay. He spoke sincerely, not to boast or joke, and as I observed him, I realized how genuine he was. He looked directly at me. Evelyn, you're the first person I've ever wanted to make happy, he confessed. As laughter bubbled up within me, I felt a warmth in my heart. With him, everything felt right. It was a natural happiness I hadn't experienced before. I'm looking forward to it, I found myself saying. A year later, Andrew and I exchanged vows. Our colleagues at the company and in the pottery studio celebrated with us. Initially, we maintained 2 residences, one in his family's mansion near the pottery studio, which astonished me to learn belonged to his wealthy grandfather, and the other, an apartment in the city center near my workplace. Today, we found ourselves in an interior shop, furnishing our apartment. Unexpectedly, a voice cut through the air. Is that plain Jane over there, Evelyn? It had been over 3 years, but Jack, my former fiancé, stood before us. With him was his model wife, Grace, whom he had married as he declared. Grace, once lively in social media and magazines, appeared different, less charming, her expression harsher. Jack's sneering smile betrayed a lack of his usual energy. Hey, this is a fancy neighborhood. What are you doing here? He taunted. Do you need a permit to shop in such a place? This store is expensive, not your typical scene, especially for someone like you, still clinging to that plain and poor aesthetic, huh? Their unchanged, condescending attitude left me feeling disgusted, and I harbored no expectations for an apology. That's right, if someone as uncool as you hangs around, it'll lower the store's reputation. People might think we're poor too. Jack jeered, his unsolicited bragging only adding to the annoyance. Did you come all the way here? Our house is that famous high-rise over there, on the 25th floor, he added, with a tone dripping with arrogance. Their relentless provocation grated on me, but I knew arguing would be futile. So I chose to remain silent, disliking the idea of dignifying their remarks with a response. Jack, however, persisted. You still love pottery, huh? You look so poor. Oh, by the way, I make $100,000 a year now, he boasted, as if to punctuate his superiority. The sudden comment from Andrew caught us off guard. 100,000 a year? That must be tough, he remarked, surprising us all. Wait, who's this guy? Jack inquired, finally acknowledging my husband's presence. Nice to meet you. I'm Andrew. Evelyn used to work with you, I believe? Andrew introduced himself politely. They seemed momentarily taken aback, only to quickly revert to their mocking tone. Wow, you got married. Well, plain people suit each other, really, Jack sneered, dismissing Andrew. What's with that tough comment earlier? He challenged, glaring at my husband. Living on the 25th floor of that high-rise and making only $100,000? That's right, I make $100,000, he continued, his arrogance oozing. With grace, Andrew responded. Unfortunately, we're not struggling. Is that so? Your wife doesn't look too happy, though. What's wrong, Grace? He retorted, his words cutting through the air. Undeterred by their laughter, Andrew took my hand, signaling our departure. Dealing with people who lack a future will only lead to trouble. Let's leave quickly, he urged me, his voice calm but firm. As we walked away, their insults and false bravado faded into the distance. Don't be sore losers. Don't come here again. Don't pretend you're from around here, Andrew replied, unfazed by their mockery. But we do live in opulent towers, he continued as they burst into laughter, fabricating obvious lies out of jealousy. With dignity intact, we left, ignoring their taunts and choosing to rise above their petty remarks. I can't believe we ran into them there. I'm really sorry, Andrew. I apologized as we walked. I'm the one who should be sorry. Maybe it was rude of me to worry about their finances upon first meeting. This is why I'm told I can't read the room, my husband replied with a hint of seriousness. I almost burst into laughter at his response. It wasn't him who was rude, clearly, but living in that high-rise so close to us. I'd hate to run into them again. Our apartment was near theirs, and we had considered their building, but we're glad we chose differently, my husband replied reassuringly. It's okay. They won't be there much longer. Weren't that woman's parents wealthy? Do you know their name? I was stunned, not understanding what he meant. A few days later, as my husband and I were leaving the entrance, Jack's voice suddenly called out. There you are. You really do live here. Jack and Grace appeared, and I was surprised. Why are you here? Help us? We're being kicked out of the high-rise. Why? For not paying rent. Then it's only fair. This had nothing to do with us. Wait, we were allowed to delay payment until now, but suddenly they won't wait anymore, all because of your husband, Grace shouted. How is that my husband's fault? I interjected, feeling the tension rise. Your husband owns that high-rise, Grace exclaimed, her face flushed with frustration. It's not me, it's Dad. What? It originally belonged to my grandfather, but now I think it's in Dad's name. Well, it doesn't matter. The management company said if we don't pay, they'll start eviction proceedings. That's only natural. It's not a charity, Jack explained. What? That's why I said $100,000 a year must be tough. What do you mean by that? Jack shouted in confusion. With a combined income of $100,000, a couple could live quite comfortably. But the rent for the 25th floor, there is $5,000 a month, right? He added, his voice tinged with disbelief. I assume you factored in taxes? What? And on top of that, you're indulging in brands. It's almost like you're heading toward bankruptcy, Grace criticized sharply. Grace, you were the one who wanted to live there. When did we start falling behind on rent? Jack questioned, confusion etched across his face. It's because of the socializing on the high floors, expensive lunches, spas, bags, and jewelry. I have to have the best, or I won't be taken seriously. You could simply choose not to associate with such people. What is keeping up appearances so important that you go into debt for it? Jack raised his voice, seemingly in shock. You mean we're in debt on top of not paying rent? That's the hardship of staying on top among the upper floors, he continued, incredulous. As a model, I can't be seen in shabby clothes. There's hardly any modeling work for you now, right? That explains why she's been out of sight lately. It's tough in that industry, constantly new and younger faces. I murmured, earning a fierce glare from Grace. Shut up, you plain Jane. Damn it, Grace, you said you'd handle the finances, and now you're telling me we're not even paying rent. Jack confronted Grace. But her parents are rich, right? You always bragged about that. They should help. I offered what sounded like helpful advice. Evelyn, her family's business has been struggling since last year, and they're not in a position to help. Andrew interjected calmly. Wait, perhaps that's why they can't afford the rent now. Maybe they were getting help from her family before. Wait, how do you know about Dad's company? Jack's tone shifted, his disbelief evident. My grandfather is a conglomerate chairman. What conglomerate? We're talking serious wealth here, Andrew explained calmly. Your father's company used to have dealings with us, but not anymore, Andrew continued, maintaining his composure. Then why didn't you say that when we met last time? It's unseemly to brag about such things. Are you mocking me? Jack's irritation surfaced. Andrew is a renowned potter. Customers wait months for his ceramics. We're also creating affordable items to reach more people, and our online sales always sell out. My husband never relied on his grandfather's money. Don't lump us together with you, I intervened, setting the record straight. After smiling, my husband returned to a serious expression and looked at Jack and Grace. Normally, if rent is 3 months overdue, the contract can be terminated and eviction proceedings start. After that, if there's still no payment, forced eviction follows in 2 to 3 months. That's clearly stated in your high-rises contract. Andrew explained matter-of-factly. We waited 5 months because we believed Grace's story, that she pleaded for more time, saying her husband was ill and their income had decreased. What the hell are you doing, Grace? Jack's face turned pale, and Grace was nearly in tears. We looked into it, my husband said simply. I learned about their past from Evelyn, but we're happy now, and running into them was just a coincidence. So what? But what did you say when you met Evelyn again? Not a word of apology, just insults. That's unacceptable. That's ridiculous. And I was genuinely worried. Earning $100,000 and living in that high-rise seems impossible, Jack remarked. What? You should be relieved we found out before your debt increased further. My husband replied calmly, causing Jack and Grace to gape at his smile. I was impressed with his effortless response. Not sarcasm, just honesty. Whether it's because he's born into an incredibly wealthy family or just his personality, I'm not quite sure. Probably the latter, though. Help us, Evelyn. I'll apologize right away. You can fix this, can't you? They suddenly played nice. No, thank you. I smiled, not as naturally as my husband, but with a bit of mischief. It's not our business. Let's go, Evelyn. Wait, don't smile and cut us off like that. They screamed, but my husband and I walked away hand in hand. Eventually, Jack and Grace had to leave the high-rise. Grace's dad paid their overdue rent, but in exchange, she was disowned. Her family's business was struggling, and Jack's income had dropped too. They'd spent recklessly to keep up appearances, and now her parents demanded repayment for the rent and refused to help. Dismayed by Grace, Jack was considering divorce. If he left all the money management to her, wasn't he partly to blame? Grace had borrowed from shady sources, now chased by dubious debt collectors. Meanwhile, my husband and I were discussing new designs for our popular pottery series at the workshop. We're creating items for families, couples, and solo relaxation times. We want to gradually expand our range of pottery to cater to the needs of every kind of lifestyle. Which color do you think is better here, Evelyn? Please take a look, my husband said warmly. Sure, someday I hope to use them with a family of our own, I replied, envisioning a bright future using my husband's pottery. Today, in our beloved studio, We're surrounded by the scent of clay, crafting pieces that will bring joy to many homes.